And horizontal is just that it wasn't switching. Oh. Hey everyone.
Is it better now?
That works. Hey everyone that's joining. Welcome to Rising Stars. We're just gonna wait a couple minutes for as many people to hop on, and then we'll eventually get started with questions. But yeah, welcome to the panel. It should be a lot of fun. I'm excited. I get to talk to a bunch of people that I have heard a fair amount about, but haven't actually necessarily got to play against all of them yet. So should be a ton of fun. Plus, I just think this is a really cool panel and exemplifying like the direction we want to head in terms of recognizing people that don't immediately get recognition, and how Quidditch media can kind of paint pictures of some people, but we're trying to spread that love to as many people as we can. Oh, seeing some chat already. We have Mary Kimball. But yeah, I also hope everyone has been enjoying QuidCon so far. There's been a lot of cool panels. And just, yeah, I don't know. It's nice to at least be involved with the Quidditch community, even if we can't be playing right now. But hopefully soon. I guess I can also, well, I'll wait a couple more minutes and then I'll just do my own quick introduction and then let everyone get to talking to you. Also, we have pretty good spread. We have Eli from out in California, right? Or you go to school in San Diego, correct?
I go to school in San Jose.
San Jose. I'm sorry.
No, it's close. So sometimes I get confused too. I'm from SoCal actually, but I go to school in NorCal. So whenever anybody asks me where I'm from, it takes me a minute to like realize where I'm at. So every time I like figure out, my mom asks me that all the time. She's like, "Where do you go to school at?" I'm like, "Where do I go to school at?" I'm like, it's like sometimes I forget. It's even worse when somebody asks me about Quidditch too. I'm like, oh God, please don't ask me about that, because I know there are people in this chat that are from San Jose State, and I know that they're gonna get me for this later on.
Okay, so you go to school in San Jose, Carson. I don't know when you were graduated or not, but you at least went to RPI in New York.
Yeah. This is my last year at RPI.
Yeah, so we got West Coast, East Coast. TJ is down in Maryland.
Yes, sir.
Casey's from UT, or goes to school in UT rather. And then Billy, you're out in Illinois.
You know it.
Yeah, so it's a pretty cool spread all across the country. All right, I'll wait one more minute and then I'll just start jumping in. But all right, so I think we can go ahead and get started, and hopefully people who are joining in the middle or late can just kind of jump in with us. So just super quick, I'll do a super quick intro about me, but this is not about me. This panel is about everyone else. But my name is Ian. I'm from the Northeast in the US. I've played Quidditch at Middlebury College and also for Major League Quidditch Boston. which is now the Forge. And I graduated in 2020, and I'm super excited to be able to talk to everyone on this panel today. This is the Rising Stars panel. If hopefully you should know that if you're here by now. So we're going to get to talk to a bunch of different rising stars in the sport of Quidditch, who I'm sure if they stick with it and hopefully get to make some big impact and already have in the sport on all different sorts of levels, college, maybe club in the future, maybe MLQ, depending on what happens with things moving forward. But yeah, so let's just jump right into some introductions. I guess let's go first name alphabetically. So Billy, do you want to start us off and just tell us a little bit about yourself?
The awkward moment when I wish I'd gone William. So I'm Billy Rocher. I go to University of Illinois. This is my 4th season in Quidditch. I primarily play chaser and seeker. I every now and then step on the field at beater and keeper if that's what's needed at the time. And I guess what I'm most proud of is last year, I'm the coach of University of Illinois, and I got us like to qualify for nationals at regionals for the first time in our school history. So that's probably my biggest like accomplishment that I'm proud of.
Wonderful. Carson, do you want to go next?
Yeah, so I'm Carson, go to RPI, senior there. I've played for, I guess, 4 seasons. Primarily a beater, but I've also chased and sought, whatever the past tense of that is. And I guess my best memory for Quidditch is the last nationals that any of us got was getting to the Elite 8. It was really nice to get there. So
wonderful. All right, Eli, you're up next.
Hey guys, my name is Eli. I'm from San Jose State. I'm a 3rd year, and I'm a utility player, so I play chaser, beater, keeper, and seeker pretty often. And I guess my favorite memory was filling out the Development Academy application. That was something that I was really afraid to do, but I'm glad I did it.
Casey.
I'm Casey Beavers. I'm a 3rd year at UT Austin. I'm also a 2nd year co-captain of the Texas team. I play chaser and beater more recently. And I guess my favorite memory is winning nationals my freshman year, probably.
And TJ.
All right, my name's TJ. My actual first name's Taiwan. I don't know if a lot of people know that, but most people call me TJ, so I usually go by TJ. 3rd year at University of Maryland. I've been playing Quidditch for not even a semester, but let's say I played spring of last semester. And I guess my best memory so far would probably be like my first legitimate catch, probably my catch against Harvard, because I worked pretty hard for it. So yeah. Oh, and I guess I'm a chaser. I've been seeking. Yes, that was you, Christian. But I've been thrown at seeker, and I like seeking, so I think I'll continue doing so.
Awesome. Cool. All right. So I guess we're going to jump into some more specific questions. And I'll go through and just call on different people so everyone has different chances to go first. And but just to start off, because you were last alphabetically, let's go TJ to start. Why did you choose to play Quidditch in the first place?
All right, so fall of last year, my friend Samad, he's a chaser from Maryland as well. He was like, "Oh man, you should play Quidditch. Like it's a lot of fun." And I'm like, I went to a practice and I was like, I have no clue what's going on. Like this is really confusing. And I was really busy. But what pushed me over there is like I was interested, but I didn't actually like commit to it. But not to be a big nerd, but I actually just read the Harry Potter books and I got hooked. And I was like, yeah, let me go try this out. And then I went and I loved it immediately. And everyone was really welcoming. So that's pretty much it.
Awesome. Eli, do you want to go?
Sure. So I wasn't planning to join Quidditch. I kind of came upon it accidentally. I believe it was my freshman year of college. I was skating by our common area and I happened to see a table and I wasn't trying to go by there, but I stopped because I saw the hoop and I wondered what it was because I thought it was just kind of like a hula hoop. So I went over and walked by it and I picked it up and they're like, "Oh, you want to play Quidditch?" And I looked at them and I was like, "Wait, this is Quidditch? This is real?" Because I didn't think it was real. I just read about it from the book. So I guess kind of me getting into Quidditch was an accident, but I mean, here I am. So I guess they managed to keep me around for a while.
How about you, Casey? What was your experience joining Quidditch like?
I found Quidditch my freshman orientation, and I was just like walking on the main road of my university, and I'd never read the books or seen the movies, so I had like absolutely no idea what it was. And they were like, "Hey, do you want to come toss this ball around?" And I was like, "Sure, I like sports," and just played like basically ultimate quaffle. And they're like, "Yeah, we're having tryouts like in a couple weeks," and I was like, "Cool, I guess I'll be there." And then I showed up, and all the people were really cool, so I was like, "Yeah, I can do this. Like, why not?"
I think Carson.
Yeah, so I actually kind of had the same experience. I found out about it at my freshman orientation. And so from there, like found out what it was, thought some of the people were really cool. They were really inviting, and they just kind of kept talking to me, kept telling me like, yeah, like no, Quidditch is really fun. Like it's all these different things. It keeps you in great shape. And so ever since then, just kind of been stuck.
And how about you, Billy?
When I was a junior in high school, my best friend's sister actually played Quidditch, and he was making fun of how big of a nerd she was because this was like back in like Rulebook 7 when they played with the brooms. And I was like, how does that even work? And he showed me the UCLA video, and we agreed that they were nerds. But I was like, Loki, it looks kind of fun. And he was like, if you play, I'm like, I'm going to play it when I get to college. And he's like, if you do, I'll kill you. And I'm just like, bet. And so I went for the team on my first day and actually had a ton of fun. Texted him immediately. I'm like, I'm joining the team. And he's just like, and I've loved it ever since.
Awesome. So this is originally farther ahead in our questions, but I think it relates more to the stories you all were talking about in terms of joining Quidditch. There can be some setbacks for people, I think, either not knowing about Harry Potter or on the other side, having to learn just different basic skill sets for sports like passing, throwing, catching, cutting, moving, depending on what your background is coming into it. So what were some of the biggest roadblocks for all of you when you were joining Quidditch? How about Casey, do you want to start us on this one?
Sure. I wouldn't say any of like the physical stuff was a roadblock for me, just because athletic background my whole life kind of easily like made that easier. I would say it was like more what other people thought of it. Like some people don't really know about it and like what it actually is, so they kind of like made fun of it at first, especially my family. Like after freshman orientation, I went home and I was like, I found Quidditch, like I kind of really like it and I'm going to go to tryouts, and they kind of just laughed at me. So I would say it was more like what other people thought of the sport at the time.
For sure. How about Carson? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I only ran track and cross country in high school. And so Quidditch just seemed really fun, but I had never like actually done a team sport or anything. And so it was like pretty difficult. That being said, like RPI, like all the people there were really super helpful. They had like a bunch of outside practices teaching me how to throw and do things like that. So I definitely think just like all of the people were big on helping me like kind of overcome any shortcomings and like the physical aspect of the sport, I guess.
Switching over to TJ, you said you kind of came at it from a different angle of not necessarily not having a sports background, but just loving Harry Potter in terms of the sport. So what were some barriers to entry for you, or just roadblocks you faced in starting Quidditch?
Yeah, so like I said, my friends from it told me to come join the team. So like I wasn't nervous about like people not being good necessarily. It was just really overwhelming the first time I even saw what was going on. In my first practice I went to, it was raining and I wore glasses so I couldn't see. And I was like, man, what is going on? But everyone, like, I think the biggest roadblock, but also like the part that helped accelerate my growth was like a lot of people on the Maryland team were pretty good. Like imagine first time getting out there and then like Zane's beating you. And I'm like, I can't beat this guy. There's no winning. But then like you get used to it. It helps that we were able to practice in person a lot during my first time out there. So like I would imagine now for newcomers now that it's really hard to learn Quidditch without playing Quidditch. I watched a bunch of film that helped, but the film doesn't make sense until you're actually physically out there.
Yeah. Billy, what was your experience like?
I think that the biggest roadblock for me initially was just there was like I knew I wanted to play a sport in college, and I didn't know which one. I was looking at ultimate frisbee. I was looking at rugby also, and so I just had to decide like which sport I wanted to play. And it was getting me to play a sport that was associated with Harry Potter was like the big thing, but Spite won over, and yeah. So this was clearly the best sport that I've ever played, like wanted to play. Yeah.
And then Eli.
I guess the hardest roadblock for me is just, I guess it's more of a mental thing, kind of being an African American. Not a lot of people in my community know about Quidditch. So the first time talking about Quidditch, it was kind of a shock. Most people just kind of shrugged it off, thinking that it wasn't real. So just trying to get into the whole mental aspect of knowing that this is a real thing and I'm actually trying to do a sport that I never thought I would consider. So just making sure I prepare myself every time to go out there. And even if it's for fun or competitively, to make sure that I I appreciate going out there and doing like playing Quidditch pretty much.
Gotcha. Yeah. And so building off of all of your answers, for this question, whoever kind of feels the most willing to answer first, we can start there and then move on. But how would you encourage new players to be active in the Quidditch community? And I guess to start out, well, let's first assume that COVID is not an issue, and we're just going to assume that you can go back to playing as of next fall. But then we can move on to talk to the more complicated matters of the situation we're in right now. But to start, so how would you encourage people to join in a normal situation where they can experience it physically?
I can start. I think that the first thing is the first step is obviously just becoming friends with your team, like do stuff with your team outside of practice. I think my first semester, I really just showed up to practices, and but I really started like truly loving this sport once I started like going out with the team, hanging out with them outside of practice. And then when you go to tournaments, talk to people from other teams, because that's how you're gonna like form your like you're going to meet people from other teams that's going to keep you wanting to come to fantasies, keeping you wanting to play, like go play MLQ or something, or like play after college and community.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what Billy said. I think kind of the biggest thing is it's kind of overwhelming when you first start. I remember like one of my first tournaments I went to, and I was just like, there were so many people, and like I was just barely getting to like know everybody on the team, so I wasn't really talking to people. And then Harry Greenhouse like came up and started like talking to me about Quidditch, and so I definitely think like, you know, like you should definitely talk to people, but like older people just coming up and talking to you, people who like know what's going on in Quidditch, I'd say that was huge for me, like being more comfortable with the sport overall.
To add on to that, I think asking questions, like that was my biggest thing, just asking questions, because like I guarantee anyone that's playing Quidditch would love to tell you more about Quidditch. So honestly, if you have any more questions about anything, you just go up to someone and they'll gladly tell you what's going on, what's going on as far as strategy, like who's who and all that stuff.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with what everybody's bringing up. I mean, I think it's just a matter of getting over like any social anxiety that you have, and like, yeah, not being afraid to ask questions, because like we've said before, like it's very overwhelming, especially at the beginning, just watching things and so much is happening. And everybody in Quidditch like loves to talk about Quidditch. So it's not like you're going to bring up a topic that we don't like talking about. So yeah.
I guess the best thing is just being yourself. I feel like a lot of people have that struggle of coming out and just like, being like you are in a normal situation. So just going out and letting the Quidditch community accept you as you are is the best way for you to kind of get eased into it and feel like you belong in that community, because once they bring you in, it's always like a big family and they're always there to support you in different things like that.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think those are some great answers just in terms of getting immersed in it, but also being willing to kind of take a step back and ask questions along the way to not get too overwhelmed. And so just quickly, for players like yourselves who maybe haven't been in the sport for super long, like some, I guess, bigger names have been talked about a lot, but who are, like this panel suggests, rising and kind of making names for yourself. What is it like to kind of switch into that role of helping those players to join and going pretty quickly from having to learn the sport yourself to trying to encourage other people to grow and love it the way that you do.
I would say teaching other people about the sport is almost more rewarding than getting good at the sport yourself, honestly, because like you're being able to share this experience that I remember my first time playing it. I'm like, man, this is actually like almost everyone I talk to, their first thing is, wow, this is actually fun. Like, wow, I actually enjoy this. Like, who would ever thought? And like just being able to give that experience to someone else is very rewarding, I think.
Yeah, I think also just like teaching people how to play has been great for me learning how to play like and improve overall. I think like having to explain kind of like the sport itself has made me just a much better player. Also, like TJ said, like it really is great when like you're teaching somebody how to play and then they like start to get it and then they start to like really fall in love with the sport too. I think that that's been like one of my favorite things.
Um, yeah, really what they're saying is spot on. For me, I think that like my knowledge on the sport, like as I started like coaching helping coach the team, like still increased. I learned a lot from my players. I learned a lot from watching what they do. So even once you get into that role, like you do that, get because in college you transition into that leadership role really fast. It's usually like your sophomore or junior year, like, um, and so you still have a lot to learn. And learning from your players that just have new ideas when they come in is like, and helping them learn also is definitely my favorite part also.
Yeah, I think pretty much everything has been said, but I guess one thing is that being able to help teach players always gives you the opportunity to learn from somebody else. Like you're able to teach somebody, but there's also somebody else that's teaching you. And I guess in my experience, I'm always learning from people, just learning different things. Even though I'm the person that usually helps people develop on my team, besides the coaches, I always go out and reach out to other people throughout the West Coast and throughout other places in the country, just so I have a better understanding of what I'm teaching people. Because if you're not able to teach people the proper way to tackle or proper way to do a pass and stuff, you can't like try to teach somebody else. So just making sure you always learn from your experiences is something that's a really big takeaway from teaching new players. Because once you teach them, you know that you did a good job of learning from other people.
Yeah, I mean, they've all covered it pretty well, and I would agree. I think it's hard to express to somebody like, I mean, how much you love the sport, but how much they're gonna love it until you actually like physically get them to play. Like you can't explain it in words. You just have to like get them on the pitch. But like once you do, and once they like, you can see like it kind of like start to figure out in their brains. It is really exciting to like watch a new player like learn to love the sport, and it helps you like figure out what you're doing. Like even if you already know what you're talking about, like it just like drills it into your brain a little bit more to where it becomes like second nature for yourself as a player.
Yeah, I think you all touched on some great points, especially just in the broader scheme of drawing people to Quidditch and getting them integrated into the team. And so let's take a step towards the kind of digital side of things for a second, because obviously right now, to kind of keep everyone safe, no one's playing Quidditch really at all. Um, at least not in a competitive sense. And so what are some ways to help kind of adapt that excitement and that passion to a digital setting to try and not necessarily just recruit, but also get people excited about Quidditch and retain and just keep recruiting that next set of college players?
I guess I can go. I guess one thing is just being able to have open discussions about Quidditch, because what I've noticed is a lot of people are, I guess, not afraid to talk about Quidditch, but there's a lot of topics that have already been talked about for a certain amount of times that people have kind of run out of ideas. So I guess a great way to introduce college players into that digital setting is just to kind of bring up new topics that maybe fit into their interests, to see if they can garner more attention, and just being able to have honest discussions, because the best way to get somebody to try to join is to be honest with them about what's going on in the Quidditch community. And that's how I kind of got integrated into talking on the Quidditch community just recently, and just being able to talk with people and have those discussions that a lot of people are afraid to have is something that's a good way to kind of get people to come out of their comfort zones and explore what's out there in the Quidditch community.
Yeah, I definitely would say it's tough. I mean, like I said, you can't have them realize how much they'll love the sport until they can play it. And obviously they don't have the capacity to be able to play it right now. So like the way I would describe like trying to get people to like fall in love with it as much as you can like try to get them to is as much like face-to-face communication, like Zooms, like watching film together. I mean, even like playing like what are those Jackbox games or something together, just to like show them you're a real person and not like, oh, I'm trying to sell you on Quidditch. It's like, no, like I'm a real person, like I'm a college student. I just like really love the sport and I really love the people that like I'm playing with and like be our friend and play Quidditch too, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think the human aspect of it is huge. Even like outside of like COVID times, like just because like you might like the sport well enough, but if you don't have like the emotional ties and the people keeping you there, it's a lot harder to like, find the time during the week. So I definitely think like just making a connection with people is the easiest and best thing you can do for recruitment, like whether it's COVID times or not.
I think that one thing that you can do during COVID to like help with like showing your like true love for Quidditch is the film reviews. Just like having people analyze what they see and like trying to get your teammates involved. I think that's like really important to like helping them grow their knowledge in the sport. And then for getting new people involved, just talking to your friends about it, they'll probably get annoyed with it after a while, but some of them will see that like your passion and they'll want to get involved. I'm actually in a chem lab right now, and one of my lab partners joined the Quidditch team last year just because of how much I talked about it, and he was like, I want to try it out. And so yeah, just like your friends will inevitably see your passion and want to find something that they can also be that passionate about, so they'll be willing to try it out.
I don't know if I'm skipping anyone. Did everyone add something?
I mean, pretty much everyone said what I had to add. I agree with what everyone was saying.
Okay, cool. So just in the interest of trying to cover a broad range of topics and also letting you all get to talk a little bit about your experiences more, let's just shift back to, I know some of you talked a little bit about your experience or some of your favorite memories in Quidditch in your introductions, but let's specifically go to just some gameplay experiences you've had and some of your favorite moments you've had individually on the pitch.
Yeah, I guess I could start. My first tournament, we played against JMU. I forget what the tournament was called. It was pretty small, but like, I don't think I got on pitch first. I think I watched more of the experienced people get on first, and then I think it was 0-0, and then I got on, and then I think I scored like 5 in a row or something like that. And I was very doubtful of like my abilities prior to doing that, because I'm like, this looks tough. There's a lot more physical than you may think it is initially looking at it. So like getting past people and stuff. But then after that, and then having the support of your team, that's always like, no matter what's going on, either supporting someone like after they get a nice goal or giving someone props for attempting something and they just barely missed it or anything like that. The team aspect is the best moment of no matter what it is, having the team support you is the best feeling.
Yeah, for me, it's this same thing. Like my favorite moment in like my Quidditch career actually wasn't done by me. I'm usually our team seeker, but it was actually the catch that sent us to nationals last year. It was done by the guy I was talking about earlier. He's right here. Yeah. So when he caught the snitch for nationals, like this is like what we had all been working towards. We had been grinding for it all game, and so like even though I wasn't the one to catch the snitch, I knew that I was just as much a part of that snitch catch as he was, as everybody else on the team was. We worked together for that. And so just when he caught that snitch, just the like collective joy of like a game well played, a season like well fought, like it all added up to something. That was probably my most rewarding moment, and I wasn't even the one who caught.
Yeah, I'll go off of what Billy, I think what my favorite thing from my Quidditch experience, it wasn't something that I did, but nationals my freshman year, when we finally caught the snitch to win like everything, I guess. Like I wasn't having like a particularly amazing game or anything. I was just being average, but the game like kept going on, and I was like, man, like, is this gonna end? Like, are we finally gonna do it? And then we pulled, and then it was just like a blank look went over my face. I was like, oh my gosh, like this actually happened. And I don't know. Other than that, the only Quidditch thing that I can remember happening, because I have an awful memory, is breakfast taco my freshman year when Aiden Parsi, who at the time I kind of had like no knowledge of, basically like walked right through me because he just plowed right through me going, and we were like scrimmaging against ourselves, and he just plowed right through me, and I was like, yep, I am not good at defense, but it's okay because I'm realizing that early. So yeah, best learning experience, definitely.
I guess I can go. I guess one of my favorite moments was they canceled MLQ out west a couple of years ago, but they did have a replacement for it, which was the Western Championship Quidditch, if I believe that's what it was called. And scoring my first goal on that had a big competitive setting was something that was really good for me because for a while, San Jose State hasn't had the biggest program, but we're always still trying to play and be competitive. So just being able to represent somebody and going out on that big stage and just goal was something that was pretty cool because I didn't play most of that game. But when I first got out there and that feeling when you scored our first goal and you know that you have some momentum going in is something really good. And I guess another goal, not another goal, another memory was the first time I played Seeker. I believe it was last regionals. It was in overtime. The score was 70-70. And that was the first time I ever Seeked. And I was so nervous because I going to have to seek 10 minutes before we went back for overtime. So I had no clue what I was doing, but being able to catch that snitch and just having that shocked feeling that I actually caught it and this is actually happening, that we won the game was something that I won't forget. And I have a terrible memory too. So those are the only two things I remember from like the past year and a half.
Yeah, I'd say probably one of my favorite moments was my sophomore year at regionals, and we went to the finals that year, but it was the first game of day two. I remember we woke up like super early and we didn't know who we were going to play going into the night. And so we just woke up and we found out it was like the number one seed team. And so I was like really nervous. Like I had only been beating at that point for like a little bit of time. But I remember we woke up and like right away one of our players scored, and then just like the momentum we kept building off of that, it was like so great, and everybody was just like hyped and ready to go. I remember like 5 specific moments from that game where like my teammates did something like so impressive, and it's just like I don't know, like the game really stuck with me like a lot. I remember like one of my teammates, like she was at the bottom of like a 5-person pile up and just like holding onto the ball like so much. Everybody was like really going for it, and she just like was doing everything she could. And it was just like how much energy everybody was putting into the game. That was really great.
Great. So I'm gonna try and squeeze in one more question before we start addressing more of the Q&As. Just as players who I feel like have started to just grow in the sport and gotten to play multiple positions or on big stages and in different leagues, what advice would you give to players who are starting to come into the sport now or in the next couple of years to start growing into your roles and finding the spots where you can make a big difference for your teams?
I think a big thing people can do is just like try and learn what like everything you can. Um, a lot of people on our team will start out at one position and like just stick with it because they feel like they should, and then change. Like I chased for the like fall semester my freshman year, and there's like footage of it, and I've never seen somebody do like absolutely nothing on the field. Like I'm literally just standing there half the time. And so then I switched to beating, and like a lot of stuff just like made sense. It clicked a lot more. So I definitely think one thing is just like trying everything and really seeing what you like.
Yeah, I'd agree. Definitely trying everything, but like just relaxing when you're doing it, like especially when you're just starting out. I know I was very, very nervous. Like obviously it's a completely new sport to me, and kind of everyone around me like already knows what they're doing. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm such a newbie. Like I'm not doing well. Like I'm just not good at the sport. And like so many thoughts are running through your head. So it's just like relax. Like you have a stick between your legs. Like obviously this is new to you. Just like stop overthinking it and also like asking a lot of questions. Ask as many questions as you can, because the stupid questions are like probably the most important questions.
I guess I could go. I guess one thing is, for me, is not being afraid to take a challenge. I feel like a lot of people are scared when they come into Quidditch because they don't know all the rules and the basics and stuff. So don't be afraid to go and try something new, because once you try something new and you find that position that you fall in love with, then you'll be able to kind of really experience again, because you're dedicated to something that you want to improve in, whether it's just for fun or doing it competitively.
Yeah, I think having fun is like one of the biggest parts about it. Get out of it what you want to get out of it. If you're really into the competitive aspect, if you want to win some titles, go grind to do that. If you just want to be a part of the community more so and just talk about Quidditch, I know I really like talking about Quidditch, watching film and all that stuff. Like, it's so much you can get out of it. You just gotta pursue whatever it is that you want out of it, the community that is.
I would say learn from everybody around you, and learn from yourself, because what you learn at chasing might be that thing that like takes you to the next level as a beater, just like because you just know where the chasers are going to be. And so just learn everything, try to take all of the collective knowledge around you. Some of it will contradict each other, and then you can use that to figure out what works for you as a player. So yeah.
Yeah, just a quick summary before we move to a question from the Q&A, but I know I've heard a lot on some other panels too, echoing what you are saying, is just finding what works for you. I mean, especially in a sport like Quidditch with a position like beater, and I mean, chaser might resemble some other sports, but it's still unique, and this game is very different than anything else. So find what works for your body and what you can do physically, and do that well, because that can help make you a better player, like you are saying. And so, yeah, now I'm just going to start. We're going to move into some of the Q&A questions that people have been asking. The first one I'll propose to all of you is, what are some of the bigger things you think that the club and post-college players can do to help support college players? And yeah, I guess I'll start there, and then I'll ask a follow-up if we want to move on.
Just from my personal experience, especially my freshman year, a lot of UT alumni go to Cavalry, and they are very, very active in like continuing and helping the college people that are learning, and already like the UT veterans. They were there, they would scrimmage with us, they would go to practices and join in on our drills and help teach, just be an extra set of eyes, or just like words of wisdom, which they always have because they're amazing. But just they were very, very active, and it was very helpful because being a part of it, like the first scrimmage we had against them, they absolutely kicked our butts. Like, it was embarrassing playing against them and them absolutely demolishing us, but it was awesome because we did it like as a team and we knew what we needed to work on. So I would say just like being as active, whether it's with a physical presence or just being supportive and like getting to know the players a little bit, or just being there to answer questions, even if it's through like a Zoom screen.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I'm probably in the same boat. Lucky enough that I go to a school where like the alumni network is like very involved and cares a lot about the team still. So I definitely think if you're a community player, like help out your college once you're gone. You probably have a lot of knowledge, especially for like a freshman who's never played before. So I definitely think just helping out in any way you can is probably peak.
I know that a lot of the conferences are put on by graduates, and there are some college students involved in making them, but helping out, volunteering, helping like making a good volunteer environment, so us like the college students want to go help out in the future to help like just expand the community in general, and just creating like a good community to be in, I think is like a great start. Yeah.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question, Ian? I kind of forgot it. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I was just asking, what do you think club and post-college players or community members can do to help support new coming and current college players?
Okay. So yeah, what most people said, just kind of being able to go and help teach people, because a lot of people do appreciate taking that step in which club players will go out and help teach people how to, catch a ball or hold the broom between the legs, or just help on scrimmages and stuff like that. So just being that support system there is something that college players really appreciate, because it helps us realize that we all have somebody behind us that's willing to teach us the basics. So once we go out, we have something to build on.
I think not even like just the physical aspect of it, just starting conversation. I think that can go a very long way. I know personally I haven't had many conversations with anyone from like the club teams or the community teams. So like, but I would appreciate if I did. So like, I think that would go a long way.
Yeah. So I guess I would say also to any college players that are listening, don't be afraid to reach out to community members you've heard about or have met before in person or not. Like a lot of everyone has said on this panel, people are usually super friendly and willing to help you out and learn and grow in the sport. And also for those community members, remember that it's scary to reach out as a college student. So if you're at a tournament, hopefully in the future we can be, don't be afraid to go up and just start a conversation with those college students and congratulate them on what they're doing. I think that can go a long way in helping encourage them in their Quidditch careers. Yeah, so let's go back to the Q&A and see if we can fit in another question. Someone asked, where do you see community interaction for college players going in the future? Are we moving away from Facebook, going to things like Discord, Reddit, something else? I know we briefly talked about kind of the digital side of Quidditch and interacting with new students, but where do you think that is moving?
Yeah, I do think it's moving from Facebook in a sense, because a lot of people that are collegiate athletes don't exactly use Facebook. So it's kind of hard for people to kind of get integrated into a system that they've never really used before. So I think having places like Discord and other forms of media that can allow more people to interact with the community at large is important, because it helps more people understand what's going on. Because a lot of people, like myself for a while, didn't know about certain events that were going on until the day of, because I just wasn't checking Facebook that often, as often as older people in the community were. So just being able to have some sort of outlet that would allow me to keep up with it quickly would be something that's appreciated, I guess.
Does anyone else have anything else to add?
I don't really have anything like smart to add, but personally, I'm not a huge Facebook user. And whenever like, especially freshman, sophomore, like I learn more and more, like there's a lot of information, like important information that's on Facebook. And I don't know if it's because I've never used it really, but it's like kind of confusing how to get to it and how to find it consistently. So, I mean, I don't even have like a suggestion for like a new platform that would be better than Facebook to use, but Facebook is not my favorite. So personal opinion, yes.
Yeah, I know for me, I've thought about just like not delete Facebook off my phone at least or something, but every time I remember how much Quidditch like info and event info that I just constantly get from that. So yeah, I agree. I'm not sure where it's going or what the solution is, but it's currently a tough issue to deal with. Maybe so. Okay, Casey, someone asked a question specifically for you, and they said, were you ever hesitant to join a sport that is primarily run by males and is typically male dominated? And how has that been different from your previous sports experiences?
That's a good question. I guess, well, whenever I was originally joining the sport, it never really was like a factor in my head because I was just trying to absorb as much information as possible, like on how to physically play it. Looking back on it, I definitely noticed a little bit more male dominance and like male focus and everything. I wouldn't say it necessarily like bothers me. There are some times when it does, but for me personally, it kind of just pushes me to do better and to like make more of a name for myself and just like work that much harder. What was the second part of the question?
Well, I guess just building off what you said, do you have any thoughts on where you hope the sport is heading, or advice to people in a similar position?
Yeah, I mean, I never played co-ed sports growing up. It was always all girls, like basketball teams or softball teams and stuff. So I never really dealt with it, but kind of, I guess, from like a newcomer's perspective to a co-ed sport, it is nice that the conversation is being brought up about more recognition for non-male players, even just like, yeah, pictures of them in general, or film where they're more involved instead of it's just like our backs in them or something like that. I've noticed a lot of pictures where it's just my back, which is funny because like I don't really like pictures, so if it's just my back, I'm fine with that. But it's funny, like as a wider thing, looking at all females or non-binary players. I don't know. I think just having open conversations, just not being afraid to speak your mind. I know some people may not think of it, or some people are afraid to bring it up. Just have an open conversation, and I wouldn't say like, don't feel like you're being accusatory, but like just walk up and say like, hey, like these are some things that I've noticed. Like, I don't know if y'all have noticed it, but it like makes me feel this way, or other people have even brought it up to me that it kind of seems like this way to other people. And like, maybe it's something we can work on. Like maybe some people have ideas on how to make things more inclusive or to showcase women or non-binary players a little bit more.
And then we don't have a lot of time, but does anyone else, I mean, a lot of you have had either leadership positions, whether that's actual titles or not, but being leaders on your team and helping recruit and whatnot. Do you have any advice on how to kind of create a team culture that is more encouraging and accepting of all players, regardless of gender?
Yeah, in a sense, yeah, because I feel like being able to support all the people, whatever gender they are, is something important. And I guess kind of going off subject with that, kind of a post I made a couple days ago, just realizing the importance of like women and non-binary players in the sport, because a lot of people don't give them the credit that they deserve. And I guess using this as a personal example, like a woman taught me how to play Quidditch, and then they taught me how to use a broom, taught me how to do all the sorts of things that put me in the position that I am today. So it's just kind of like making sure that you recognize the people for their accomplishments, because if they don't get recognized and they get those just back pictures, you're not actually acknowledging that they're there. You're just showing like a random thing that could be passed along. So just making sure you know who you're like taking a picture of, who you're talking to, making sure that they receive that recognition, because that can affect them later down the line and give them that confidence that they may have not had coming into the sport. So I think that's just really important to just highlight people who try their hardest, because a lot of people kind of get, I wouldn't say swept under the rug, but a lot of people don't get that recognition that they deserve, because there are bigger players on their programs and different parts of the history of Quidditch that maybe get highlighted more.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing. Also, just like talking to those players, like asking how things are going, things like that. I know for a while we had a huge problem with stuff like that. And then like once you start talking to them players, they'll feel comfortable with telling you what's going on. Cause yeah, like there's a little bit of fear that you're like accusing a team member of something, even if they're doing something wrong. It doesn't mean they're a bad person necessarily. It's just they're doing something wrong. And so definitely addressing the issue, I think, is the most important thing. Like from that, like a lot of the feedback, now we know like what we should be looking for that like is kind of like negative experiences for like female, non-binary, like kind of anybody who isn't exactly in the majority.
All right. Billy, do you have anything really quick to add? We're
It's really
running
quick.
out of
Address
time.
your personal biases. Like I know that this was a problem that I still struggle with, and it's just like make sure you address your personal biases, and it will make it a lot better.
Great. So not to rush us to an end, but for anyone listening, if you have any more questions, please go to the Slack so that you can ask more questions. Hopefully all of us can address those. And thanks for joining us for this panel. Also, just a reminder, don't feel afraid to reach out to pretty much anyone in the Quidditch community. Keep asking more questions and hopefully learning more about the sport and growing. So thanks, everyone. Take care.